This talk was given by Roshi Rafe Martin, guiding teacher of the Endless Path Zendo, a lay Buddhist community in Rochester, New York. Join our practice, in person or online, at endlesspathzendo.org.
Today is Saturday, May 9th, 2026. And this morning here at Endless Path Zendo, we'll resume with the reading from a Zen Life of Bodhisattvas, a book of mine that came out from Sumeru Books back in pretty recently, 2023. And we're up to the second chapter. Our first chapter was on the way of growing up beings, that is the nature of bodhisattvas. And now we're going to look at the bodhisattva who is the patron of the Zendo, which is Manjusri Bodhisattva of Wisdom. Excuse me 1 second. We'll start with a poem, actually a verse, inscribed by Hakuin when he was 35 years old on a painting, his first painting of the Bodhisattva Manjusri. And his poem goes like this: I bow deeply before the great teacher, Manjusri, whose pure, clear Dharma body is painted here. If you see him on the surface of the paper, you're just digging a well to see white clouds. If you pursue him apart from this painted image, you're ambling eastward, chasing the setting sun. See it! I bow deeply before the great teacher, Manjusri. If you see him on the surface of this of the paper where Hakuin is painted, an image of the Bodhisattva of great wisdom, Manjusri, you're just digging a well while you're trying to see white clouds in the sky overhead. You're going in a completely wrong direction. And yet, if you try and see him apart from this painted image on this piece of paper, then you're heading eastward looking for the setting sun. You're also completely wrong. And he says, see it. I bow deeply before the great teacher, Manjusri. Classic Hakuin, and of course, classic Zen statement. If you do this, you're wrong. If you do that, you're wrong. A bit of has not, as Wu Men says, in your life. Your real life is lost, caught up in ideas of having or not having, of real or not real. The bird song passes you by and you don't hear it. The taste of your food goes through your mouth, but you don't taste it. Your life is lost. The whole point of Zen practice is to restore our life, which means we have to get out of the way. That's the conundrum. That's the problem, isn't it? We're trying to feel more fully, live more fully, and the very problem is us trying to do it, as Hakuin points out in this little verse. So what is wisdom? Who is the Bodhisattva Manjusri? An introductory koan, I don't know if I say it in this talk, but say it here then. An introductory koan asks, what is the age of the Bodhisattva Manjusri this year? In any case, here we go. Manjusri, Bodhisattva of Wisdom, patron saint of Zendos, is the primary Zen Bodhisattva. In Japan, the Buddha sits in the Buddha hall, but Manjusri, Bodhisattva of Wisdom, presides over the Zendo, which is the realm of formal practice. And he's often there seated on a lion, holding a scroll or a lotus in one hand, sometimes a sword in the other. He may have the shaved head of a monk, showing himself free of all attachments and concerns, or he may be presented as a prince with long hair, flowing robes, and jewelry, royally engaged with life itself. In traditional Japanese Zendos, Manjusri's altar is often in the center of the room, out among the sitters, rather than being set higher up and back against the far wall. If you've had a chance to do sesshin with us, the Jataka sesshin we do at the Toronto Zen Center, you'll see they have a Manjusri on a small square pillar altar in the very center of the room, out among the sitters. That's very traditional for a Zendo. Of course, they have a separate Buddha hall where there's the Buddha. We, not having a separate Buddha hall, have our Manjusri and Kannon and Buddha all right here in the Zendo. In any case, sitting in such a Zendo, you have a sense of fundamental equality because the practitioners in such Zendos, where there's Manjusri in the center, sit on a raised platform, so their heads are at the same level, literally, as Manjusri's. You get a sense of equality in that, which is very much the point. Manjusri is not set up high, looking down at us. Seeing things in comparison, relative to one another, creates our ordinary world of highs and lows, bigs and littles, and so on. But when through attention to the practice, the relative world falls away, equality awakes. Each thing is entirely, vividly, mysteriously itself. This is Manjusri's realm, Manjusri's experience, Manjusri's wisdom. From this perspective, the life of an ant and the life of an Einstein are of equal worth. Each absolutely itself. There's no comparison. Comparison is seeing things relative to one another. The absolute world seen relatively is the relative world. The relative world, things seen in relation to one another, seen absolutely, each thing itself, is the absolute world. To present such profound equality, which does not deny but affirms the uniqueness of each thing, the Bodhisattva of Wisdom sits with us, not above us. When he swings the delusion-cutting sword, he is the power of active practice, cutting through dualistic, self-centered thinking, cutting all into one. The sword of Manjusri cuts into one, not two. His sword of insight is said to simultaneously kill and give life. When the sword is up, when dualistic, the point there is when dualistic delusions are cut, the greater non-dual life emerges. The sword cuts through delusion, revealing life, life itself. When the sword is held upright, sometimes Manjusri is seated, as here in our Zendo, on a line with the sword held upright. This is known as perfect wisdom's hair-blown sword. It's so sharp that no effort is needed. Delusions that drift against it are instantly cut. In the shrine room, we have Manjusri swinging the sword. You see that is the activity of active practice presented as equally by Manjusri. On the lotus in his left hand is the book or scroll. So Manjusri always has in his left hand, or by him on the side, a book or scroll. This is the scroll of the heart of perfect wisdom, prajna paramita. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness only form. When Manjusri's sword cuts through our self-centered isolation and dualistic seeing, what's revealed is prajna paramita. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness only form. Form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness no other than form. Things fall into place when Manjusri is around. Wisdom is not something far off in Buddhist tradition. It's not esoteric in Zen tradition. Here's a little verse I wrote back in 2009 as part of my lay ordination. buds on the trees, buds on the trees. Manjusri's on his lion, all's well with the world. Buds on the trees, buds on the trees. Manjusri's on his lion, all's well with the world. On an altar with the Buddha, Manjusri may be paired with Samantabhadra. Japanese Samantabhadra is Fugen. Manjusri on a lion presents the fearlessness of the absolute, the courageous realization of our nature of selfless emptiness. Samantabhadra on an elephant, that's usually what Samantabhadra is presented as, seated on an elephant, and Manjusri on a lion. Samantabhadra presents the unstoppably active compassion arising from emptiness. Nothing can stop the elephant. No walls, no rivers. It marches through all things. Compassion is unstoppable, is the implication of Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. Together they form the two arms of the Buddha, wisdom and active compassion arising from selfless, non-dual wisdom. In some Buddhist traditions, Manjusri's wisdom is a matter of learning and intelligence. That's another aspect of Manjusri, learning and intelligence. And his practice is said to strengthen memory and make the mind subtle and sharp. He is sometimes also shown with two young attendants who are on the path of learning of their own nature and becoming wiser. Over the Doksan line, there's a beautiful white porcelain Manjusri. He's seated with kind of one knee up, getting ready to get out and do some things in the world. He has long hair on his left, he's seated this way, so it might be on his right side. On a lotus leaf is the rolled up scroll, the prajna paramita, and standing in front of him on two lotuses rising up out of surging waves, the world itself with our surging emotions and thoughts and all of that, are two young students. And that's what we have seated that we can get inspiration from as we sit in the Doksan line, the process of Manjusri, working with students. So Manjusri's mantra is Om Ara Pakana Ji. Om Ara Pakana Ji. Ji. That's not something we do in Zen, but certainly in Tibetan practice, increasing the mind's ability to memorize and have deeper intelligence. That mantra is a practice. But in Zen, Manjusri's wisdom is gone beyond, opening the path of non-dual insight. That is Manjusri's realm. A knowing beyond understanding. Buddhist tradition says that long ago, Manjusri realized full Buddhahood, that he was a Buddha, then decided to stick around and become a Bodhisattva again to help others endlessly throughout time attain the way. So he is revered as the teacher of the past 7 Buddhas here on earth. Buddhist cosmology is very interesting. There are endless worlds and Buddhas on countless other worlds, but here on earth there have been many past Buddhas. Some traditions in Buddhist traditions say 20, some say 7. Manjusri is said to have been the teacher of the past 7 Buddhas. So we're looking at tremendous depths of time as well. It's quite interesting. In a literal sense, it's really fascinating. In any case, Yamada Roshi, Eiken Roshi's teacher, in a series of unpublished talks on the Blue Cliff record, the Hikiganroku, koan collection, writes, "You might think it strange that a mere bodhisattva could be the teacher of Buddhas, but Manjusri can be taken as the symbol for the world of emptiness. No one has attained Buddhahood without experiencing this world of emptiness. Thus, Manjusri is seen as the one who teaches the Buddhas about that world. In actual fact, however, He was a disciple of Shakyamuni. He is ranked as a great bodhisattva, together with Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva of great compassion, and Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva of compassionate action. So to go on, typically Manjusri is shown as youthful because wisdom is always fresh and new, sometimes startlingly so, which makes sense. How old or stale can aha be? It's always fresh and new. That's why Manjusri is always young. So he is known as the ever-youthful one. Then again, he can also appear as old and venerable, as wisdom takes years to mature, and we are old souls when we finally get it. So both youth and age are images of Manjusri, expressions of Manjusri. At Endless Path Zendo, Manjusri appears in a variety of forms. A large Japanese scroll reproduction of Manjusri on a blue lion hangs in the Doksan room. His hair is in 5 tufts, signifying the 5 wisdoms that appear when the mind is freed of self-centeredness. He holds not a sword, but a lotus in one hand, and the scroll of prajna paramita's heart of perfect wisdom in the other. In the Zendo, this was written a couple of years ago. Originally, we had a large bronze Manjusri, which is now in the shrine room, and maybe we'll put him out when we do Sesshin, because he embodies the active work of practice realization, the wisdom of that. So he's a Chinese version of a Nepalese or Tibetan original, and he very much wields a delusion-cutting sword in his right hand, and there's a book of prajna paramita rising on a lotus in his left. And then we have the white porcelain Manjusri accompanied by 2 young attendants out over the Doksan line. His hair is long. He holds a kutsu, the teacher's stick, or an imperial staff, demonstrating that his personal wishes are in selfless accord with the universe. And a wisdom scroll sits on a lotus leaf beside him, and though waves surge beneath his feet, he is at ease, one leg half down, one hand resting lightly on his knee, ready to get up and be of help to all. These days we also have a Manjusri in the Zendo, which is Chinese, wooden, painted a little bit. He's seated on a recumbent lion. A lion seems to be sleeping, but he has a very much of a kind of Bodhidharma look about him, this lion. And the Bodhisattva Manjusri seated on the lion holds a sword upright and holds the scroll of Prajna Paramita, perfect, selfless wisdom, in his left hand. Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism include forearm Manjusris with bow, arrow, and spear, and varying female forms as well. Tibetan Buddhists acknowledge Yamantaka, slayer of death, the dark blue, many-armed, fiercely wrathful form of Manjusri, able to tear down, rip apart, swallow up all delusions, all self-centeredness, all greed, ignorance, anger, all hatred and violence, aimed against what is virtuous, kind, compassionate, an important form of the Bodhisattva on our Saha world. Saha, of course, means bearable, tolerable, a place where efforts towards enlightenment are needed and practical. It can make a difference and move us swiftly, rather swiftly, as we stumble along towards a greater maturity in wisdom and compassion, compared to heavenly worlds where no motivation for realization is applied or supplied. People are just happy, happy, happy all the time. As the incredible spring band used to sing about. Or hell worlds where things are so dismal, heavy and dark, it's really even impossible to conceive of the possibility of freedom, liberation, happiness. So we live on a Saha world, as Tolkien called it, this middle earth between heaven and hell. Buddhism agrees. There are countless heavenly worlds, countless hell realms, and fortunately also many Saha, bearable, tolerable, middle earths. So Manjusri may be shown with a book, a sword, a lion, a kutsu, an imperial scepter, a lotus with bows and arrows and flames, all of which can be signifiers of wisdom. What kind of wisdom? If we want to know in more than purely academic terms, that is, if we want to know it personally, Zen says we must sink into mu, into this breath, this count, this who, this specific koan point, whatever it is our practice. Give ourselves fully to that, disappear into that. If we do, at some point, Manjusri's living wisdom may become so clear that we can find ourselves doubled over in laughter. What relief! All our many accumulated worries, that whole self-centered burden of me, myself, and I, and all the sorrows and errors that spring from it can be gone, having at least momentarily fallen away. Touching base with wisdom's fountain of youth, dropping body and mind, sinking into mu, becoming intimate with this count, this breath, this questioning, this inquiry, this caw of the crow, doesn't mean that we fall into a vat of spiritual pudding in which distinctions vanish and, quote, unquote, all is one. Ants and eagles, stars and snails, hangnails and 9-inch nails are not replaced by emptiness. Each thing is unique, literally incomparable. Emptiness is form. Form is emptiness. Not when you're fully enlightened and a Buddha, or not alone then. It's now. Each thing. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness only form. This is prajna paramita. This is Manjusri's wisdom. We live with it all the time. Scroll or book that Manjusri carries, the wisdom that the sword cutting through all dualism reveals, is that form is only emptiness, emptiness only form. It's not a provisional truth. It simply means that right now, just as the world and just as we ourselves are, at this moment, it is the truth. It's not a truth held off into an imagined future when we are fully enlightened. It's the truth now, whether we see it yet or not. Still, wise as he is, enlightened as he is, beyond all self-centered delusions and duality as he is, like us, Manjusri still needs to read a manual to fix his carburetor, and sometimes to restart his Kindle. Nevertheless, in this world of the so-called 10,000 things, our bustling world of cats, clouds, bugs, people, cell phones, mountains, stars, trees, and rivers, Manjusri functions wisely. For when he swings his delusion-cutting sword, my tree is cut down, my child is gone, and instead there stands my tree, my child, whole and complete as they've ever really been. But if Manjusri is so wise, how is it that in the Vimalakirti Sutra, the wealthy old enlightened Buddhist layman Vimalakirti, lying on his sickbed in a bare room, so easily puts the great Bodhisattva of Wisdom to shame? If you know the great Vimalakirti Sutra, it's really a riot. It's really funny. And the old sick layman on his sickbed in the city of Vaisali makes Manjusri quite nervous to face him. Or is Manjusri, ever selflessly skillful, acting purposefully as a foil so that he and Vimalakirti working together can put on a splendid Dharma show? Here's Blue Cliff Record, Hekikanroku case 84, Vimalakirti's gate of non-duality. So this takes from the sutra, this classic moment of Manjusri and Vimalakirti coming face to face. Vimalakirti asked Manjusri, what is the Bodhisattva's Dharma gate of non-duality? Don't we all want to know? What is the Bodhisattva's Dharma gate of non-duality? Don't we want to know it and live it? Don't we want to live not isolated, not set apart, not in a negative way set apart, not caught up in interior monologues and dialogues of greed, anger, ignorance, shame, doubt. All that flesh is heir to. Actually, it's not flesh. All that thought is there too. I'm in here, you're out there. I've been treated unjustly. I've got to get back at them. I've got to... All the stuff we know so well. All of us. Anyway, what is the Bodhisattva's Dharma gate of non-duality? Don't you want to know? Wouldn't it put all those problems to rest? Wouldn't it make you happy to live having passed through the Bodhisattva's Dharma gate of non-duality? Isn't that what every koan is about? It's a Dharma gate of non-duality. That's the whole point in a nutshell, isn't it? There's Manjusri's question. The Bodhisattva of great wisdom challenges the sick old Vimalakirti lying on his sickbed. Very skilled Bodhisattva, Vimalakirti. Totally engaged. He's wealthy man. Totally engaged with the issues of his time and place and city. He would go into the law courts and he would go into the taverns, and he had a way of working with everybody. Very, very, very skilled Bodhisattva himself, Vimalakirti. So, Manjusri says, what is the Bodhisattva's Dharma gate of non-duality? Vimalakirti asks Manjusri, so this makes perfect sense. The Vimalakirti, the great enlightened layman, very skilled, Manjusri has come to visit him on the Buddha's orders, actually, because Manjusri was very hesitant about going to visit Vimalakirti. He was a bit nervous about it for some reason. And Vimalakirti asked Manjusri, the avatar of wisdom itself, so who would you better ask this question of? He asked, what is the Bodhisattva's Dharma gate of non-duality? And Manjusri answers Vimalakirti, saying, to my mind, so here it is, this is Manjusri's summation of the Dharma gate of non-duality. To my mind, in all dharmas, that is all events, all happenings, all arisings, everything is a dharma in one way or another. In all dharmas, there are no words, no preaching, no demonstration, and no recognition. It is beyond all questions and answers. That is entering the Dharma gate of non-duality. There's nothing from the very beginning. There's nothing to cling to. There's no isolation. There's no separation. There's everything. It's just as it is. This is a wonderful response. There's no words to hold to. There's no intellection to grab onto. There's no separation fundamentally really at all. As the Buddha realized upon his own great enlightenment, wonder of wonders, all beings are Buddhas, fully endowed with all wisdom and virtue. Only our unconscious self-centered habits of mind prevent us from realizing this all the time. So, that's Manjusri's answer. Good. Then Manjusri asked Vimalakirti. Each of us has had his say. And what they've done is gone through dozens and dozens of bodhisattvas who've all come with Manjusri to Vimalakirti's sick room, and each one has, when asked this question, has presented how they entered the gate of non-duality. What was their practice that brought them to enlightened realization of non-dual living? And they've gone through all of these. So Manjusri says, each of us has had his say. Now, tell us, good man, he's speaking to Vimalakirti, what is the Bodhisattva's entry into the Dharma gate of non-duality? What is it? What would you say it is? And the last one, of course, to speak has been Manjusri. He's the ultimate Bodhisattva of Wisdom. And then he turns to Vimalakirti and says, well, what's your take on this? The case goes on to say Shwedo, that would be Secho in Japanese, comments on this. That's where the case ends. What's your take, Vimalakirti? Shwedo comments saying, what did Vimalakirti say? And again he says, I have seen through him. I have seen through him. But that's the question. What did Vimalakirti say? The great answer in the sutra is that Vimalakirti gave forth with a thundering silence. He said nothing. But the nothing he said was thundering. Everything was gone in that silence. In any case, Manjusri is very impressed by that answer, by the way. And if you don't know the sutra, I hope you'll read it. It's really fun. It's really imaginative, creative, and profound. And it's a sutra that's been particularly favored by Zen tradition, not surprisingly. In any case, Yamada Roshi adds, 32 people had accompanied Manjusri on his visit, that is to Vimalakirti, and each of them had presented his view on what was involved in the Bodhisattva's entering the Dharma gate of non-duality. The last to speak was Manjusri. He then asked Vimalakirti to offer his view. Nothing more appears in the koan about how Vimalakirti answered. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, however, it says that Vimalakirti sat there in silence. Then Shwedo, that would be Secho in Japanese, asks us, what did Vimalakirti say? What does that silence say? And then it goes on. The Vimalakirti Sutra also says that Vimalakirti's silence is like thunder. In his silence, Vimalakirti presents the entire universe. With his question, Shwedo shows how he is aware that Vimalakirti is perfectly expressing the world of oneness. This world of oneness, where can it be? From the perspective of non-duality, of prajna, of our own vast, empty of self-centeredness, wisdom, nature, of Manjusri, him or herself, we do not even possess eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, color, sound, smell, taste, touch, or what the mind takes hold of. No mind, nothing to gain, and no one to gain or lose a thing. No wisdom to attain or lose. No lion to ride, no sword to swing, and no one to do the riding or wielding. Not this, not that. The sword cuts, the lion leaps, and always present wisdom reveals itself. How can you attain what you already have? Who is there to be or to become wise? Thoughts of selflessness can seem threatening to our habitually self-invested self. But forgetting the self, as Zen Master Dogen terms it, is not a matter of avoiding emotions or sidestepping individuality. Rather, it's like seeing a golden sunrise or a star-filled night and awed, momentarily forgetting ourselves. People so get nervous. If I forget myself, will I remember myself? If I forget myself, will I fall into emptiness? Does that happen when you're awed by a sunset or a star-filled night? And you forget yourself for a couple of minutes. Or when you listen to a piece of music that just really takes you out of yourself. When you see a painting or whatever it is, to live like that is the point that Zen can help us embody in our own lives. Such selflessness is like coming home. Forgetting the self is like coming home. You step inside, you take off your coat, you hang up your hat, you rub your hands together completely at ease, clinging to thoughts of me, myself, and I, never seems to bring the joy or the security we hope from doing it. Have you found that to be true? Isn't that why we start practicing? Because at some point we've realized that I'm holding on to this sense of myself, but it's not making me as happy as I thought it was going to. How come? Aren't our best moments those in which we've been able to forget ourselves? A child walks into the room and our heart opens. A glorious sunset stretches across the twilight. A mountain peak emerges from the clouds. The taste of tea awakens our tongue. And we ourselves are momentarily gone. Prajna paramita. Gone, entirely gone. Zen's wisdom is to help us live such a self-forgotten, ordinary life. Ordinary life, self-forgotten ordinary life. Everything can step in and be alive, be uniquely itself. An ordinary life in which we're fully alive by being gone. There's the paradox. Manjusri's sword that kills is the sword that gives life. There is a kind of wonder to it. I find it quite wondrous. A kind of wonder. The most ordinary things, hearing sounds, tasting tastes. Blake said something about the wonderful fragrance of a flower. Where does that come from? Where does that wonderful odor, that fragrance come from? Wonder is no small thing in itself. Lawrence van der Post, upon returning to the big cities of South Africa, after his time in the Kalahari, the desert, among the San, the Bushmen, wrote, if you don't know, it's an old book of his called The Heart of the Hunter. I found it one of the most wonderful books I'd ever read. I read it over and over many, many times. It's dated in certain ways, but Anyway, here's a quote from it that Vanderpost wrote when he returned from being among the Bushmen of the Kalahari. He was a South African, a white South African. It might sound vague, but it was clear to me, and of the most urgent, practical importance, to turn back to what we had left of the capacity for wonder. Only reverence for life could deliver us from our inhumanity and from the catechism of violence awaiting us at the end of our present road. He wrote this probably in the 40s. It might sound vague, maybe early 50s, but it was clear to me and of the most urgent, practical importance to turn back to what we had left of the capacity for wonder. Only reverence for life could deliver us from our inhumanity and from the cataclysm of violence awaiting us at the end of our present road. If it was clear to him in the late 40s or early 50s, how much clearer it's got to be to all of us right now. The cataclysm of violence awaiting us at the end of our present road. Our present road is already immersed in it. A sense of wonder, to return to that, can make all the difference. Though he was speaking of the particularly volatile complexities of South Africa and apartheid, we're all, that is Vanderpost was, to one degree or another partakers of the same mess. Cutting to the chase, contemporary American Zen teacher John Dido Lurie would tell his students to be what you do. Be what you do. The essence of the Buddha way lies in these simple words, a matter of no longer standing apart as if we were some sort of isolated observer or visitor to this life. Roshi Kapleau used to sum up the kind of ordinary alienation that sadly become the ground of Western feeling and thought by quoting the words of a poem by A.E. Housman, I, a stranger and afraid, in a world I never made. That's pretty much the Western view. Of course, Zen view is that we each create the world just as it is. Modern science is probably aligning us with that view, the whole idea of hologram, reality as a hologram, where it, in fact, is the mind itself that sees. This is one of the fundamental questions in Zen. Who am I? Read the Basui letters in the 3 Pillars of Zen. They're revelatory today. Who sees colors with the eyes? Who hears sounds with the ears? Who's hearing these words I'm speaking right now? Who's speaking them? You realize how strange it is to be alive in this very moment? To touch base with that, to regain a sense of wonder. Restores us to a kind of harmony, something we've been seeking all along, and it's been here all along, and for lack of it, human beings have done terrible things, as we all know. In any case, Dogen, that brilliant early 13th century teacher, revered as the founder of Japanese Soto Zen, says that to move the self forward to become one with the 10,000 things is called delusion. But to let the 10,000 things come forward to realize themselves as the self is intimacy or realization. When the so-called 10,000 things, cars, dogs, trees, cats, pencils, airplanes, hydrants, blades of grass, no longer stand out there separate from us, either threatening or desirable, we are intimate. Then nothing is a stranger. We find ourselves sitting by the glowing coals of our own hearth. The prajna paramita hridaya, heart of perfect wisdom, speaks of the Bodhisattva of compassion, of Avalokiteshvara, but Manjusri loves the heart of perfect wisdom, for it is his own heart. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness only form. Perfect wisdom is revealed. It is not added to us and cannot be gained. The sort of practice cuts through habits of delusive thinking, allowing the wisdom that has always been to appear. Seeing colors with the eyes, hearing sounds with the ears, thinking thoughts with the brain. No additional effort is required. We do not need to climb a ladder of thought to get to this. It is ours before we even take the first step up onto the first rung of the ladder of thought. It is what the ladder itself stands on. That's why you can't think your way to it. It's already there before you even started thinking. Still, when you look through Zen's gateless gate, do you think you'll see Manjusri riding on a lion? In ancient China, a teacher saw an image of Manjusri appearing in the steam rising from the pot of rice he was cooking on the monastery stove. Immediately, he hit at it with a spoon to drive it away. That is Manjusri, properly attending Manjusri. With the swing of his sword that cuts in one, Manjusri banishes relative realities. Each thing is no longer seen relatively, that is, only in relation to other things. Mount Wutai, the mountain in China sacred to Manjusri, was portrayed as a realm of gold. Everything there, just as it was seen as of immeasurable value. An apple of no less worth than a diamond, with no judging of one thing in comparison to another. Each thing emerged as unimaginably itself. The Japanese monk Enin, after making the difficult sea voyage to China in 838 Common Era, went to Mount Wutai. He then brought the cult of Manjusri back to Japan with him when he returned in 847. In his journals, Enin wrote of balls of light that moved purposefully among Mount Wutai's 5 peaks, and of pilgrims who gathered nightly there to watch and venerate this manifestation of the Bodhisattva of great wisdom. Interestingly, Ray Bradbury in the Martian Chronicles, I hope you're at least somewhat familiar with Ray Bradbury's science fiction, wrote of ancient Martians who, having long ago transcended physical matter, appeared as intelligent balls of light to the earthly missionaries who'd come to Mars to convert the heathen Martians, and who found themselves awed into humility instead. As we said, interestingly, there's a whole history of these balls of light appearing around Mount Wutai, the mountain sacred to Manjusri, a long tradition in Buddhist tradition, actuality. Anyway, Enin wrote too of vegetarian feasts on Mount Wutai in which food was offered equally to everyone, not just to the ordained clergy. Why? Because years earlier, he was told, a pregnant woman at such a feast had demanded double portions, one for herself and one for her unborn child. Her request refused. She rose up into the air, became the Bodhisattva Manjusri, and vanished in a blaze of light. After that, all guests on Mount Wutai were welcomed equally. The cult of Manjusri was important to lay Buddhists in Tang-era China as it was in Japan after Enin brought it there, which makes sense. Who needs wisdom more than lay people who are never off the hook? The Sutra on Upasaka precepts, that is the Sutra on and about lay precepts, says that because lay practice is so difficult, when a lay person arouses the aspiration for enlightenment, quote, the 4 heavenly kings and kings of the Akanistha and other heavens pleasantly, and with great surprise exclaim, "Now we have a teacher of men and gods. Now we have a teacher of men and gods." In Zen, intimacy and enlightenment mean the same thing. Practicing to get enlightened is misleading. Can you get intimacy? Through ongoing daily practice and periodic sesshin, we begin to see through old habits of unenlightenment and become intimate with each thought, each emotion, each person, tree, cloud. This is where and how Manjusri's lion roars, and how the lotus with the book of wisdom on it blossoms. Why a lotus? Lotus blossoms rise out of mud, continue through murky water, and finally emerge into air and sunlight where they open fully. This is an ancient image of life's journey from primal ignorance to spiritual fulfillment. The fundamental delusion of duality grows out of habitual belief in the reality of an isolated me in here and everything and everyone else out there. When Manjusri's sword cuts, all that's gone. Practicing this breath count. 1, 2, 3, and so on. Experiencing this breath, absorbing ourselves in a koan point, is how we wield that sword. Without intimacy, we stumble unconsciously through life like so many tourists to the planet, polluting the air and water we need to live, killing plants and animals that are our ancestors and relatives, warring against brothers and sisters. Zen practice is a corrective, but it is not, alas, a quick fix. Manjusri is our ally and our guide in this ongoing, deeply important work. The word Buddha may spring from the same root as to bud. Anyone realizing the intimate wisdom of Manjusri, teacher of Buddhas, is beginning to be a budded being, a lotus heading through murky water toward sunlight. We'll stop here and recite our great vows for all. I'll stop the recording and I'll turn the computer around so we can face the Buddha, Manjusri, and Avalokiteshvara on the altar.